Welcome back to my garden, which is doing a whole lot better than I have this summer. It has been so hot, struggling to get outside, over 40s. We've even had a few 45 days in a row. So I have not been thriving in this weather, but we've finally got a cool streak, 10 days where it's actually like a normal summer temperature and a bit of cloud, maybe even a bit of rain. So you know what's happening. We're planting. I've been dying to plant things. This is the longest streak I've gone without planting. I haven't really planted anything since last year, like maybe 3 or 4 months, other than like a few papayas I snuck in this garden this week. But yeah, things have just been sitting, waiting for the cooler temperatures, which is now. Alright, so first up in the planting lineup we have a nashi pear. So I have 2 plants going in right here next to the grapes at the end of the arbor, and it's quite a small space, it's a narrow space, it's beside the driveway, so I don't want anything too big and bushy. And pears in general sort of have more of a column growth habit where they grow up and they don't spread out as much. So I knew I wanted to get a pear, and nashi pears are my favorite, which is an Asian pear. This one is the Kosui nashi, and you do need to have multiple for pollination, but I'm going to be grafting multiple onto this one. Other side, I'm going to plant a plum. So it doesn't really matter what plum, what stone fruit, because I'm going to do a multi-graft on this as well. But this one has a really good shape and structure for a small space. I've sort of been pruning it for espaliering, so it's nice and flat and it isn't really bushy. And this one is a yellow plum. I have no idea what. I've had this for quite a long time. I got it really cheap. It's got no label, so I don't really know what it is, but it had 1 fruit on it and it was yellow. So it was a yellow plum with yellow skin and yellow flesh. So I don't know what that is, but we'll find out. I'm also going to multi-graft that as well. So I dug these holes yesterday, and my gosh, I've forgotten how hard it is to dig holes and rip up grass in this front yard. So that is why we're also only doing 4 trees today and not any more. But as well, we're probably still going to get some hot days, so I do need to hold off and wait for the more sensitive stuff before I plant that out. The stuff I have been hardening off. So I have kept these in the sun, and I've had trays underneath them so they've had water, and they have been getting a lot of full sun. So they're not going to get too much of a shock to go out here into the garden now. So I've dug my holes at least twice as wide and twice as deep as the plants are in their pots. And I'm going to add a mix of good soil in and sort of mix it in with my natural soil. My natural soil, as you can see, is pretty much pure sand. So I have got lots of organic matter in here to mix in to retain some moisture. Now, I'm not surprised this is root bound because I've had this definitely sitting in a pot for a while. So I'm going to loosen it off a little bit, try and help those roots escape. Another great way to do this is to blast it with the hose. So I might do that as well. You can see all the white roots here. Those are all brand new roots. So it's really trying to grow, which is another reason that I really want to get it in the ground. So it's got a bit of growing time this summer before we hit winter and it goes dormant. Now I'm just going to get the hose to water it in a bit. Oh my god. And don't squirt yourself with a hose. I mean, what the fuck? That is not ideal. Yuck. It's not even turned on. It must have just been water was left in the hose. I'm really winning at life today. At least I didn't get my microphone. So. Get a few good scoops of the good soil and then mix some of the sandy soil through, which is going to help with drainage, but also stops the plant from getting a shock when it realizes that most of the soil around it is pure sand. And before making it firm, I'm just going to make sure it's straight. I'm going to go change my t-shirt. I'm back. Take two. So this one is the plum. Again, this one has been in this bag far too long. I've had this, I think, since last winter, which at this point is 7 or 8 months ago. Again, hole is twice as wide, maybe even 3 times as wide, and twice as deep. Maybe not quite twice as deep. I obviously got sick of digging with this one, but that's okay. I'm actually nervous to see what's in this bag. It's probably all kinds of root bound, but it's starting to put off new growth now and even flowers, which is strange. The seasons have been all messed up with this intense weather. You can see why you don't want to do this with hot weather, because it is a lot of stress on a plant, especially if they've been in their pots for too long. Sometimes it's better just to cut the bag off. So again, you just want to make sure that it's not all tied up in knots and that you can sort of loosen it off a bit. Let's get the hose in here, not spray ourselves. And what happens if you don't loosen off the roots is that if they're wrapped around and around in circles and you plant it in the ground, the roots sort of are trapped and they think they're still in a pot. So the tree's not really going to get much growth. So if you find that you've had a tree planted for quite a long time and it's not really doing anything, that could be one of the many reasons, but it's why I always like to sort of check that before I plant. So I do want to make this flat this way, so the growth is all going to be left to right rather than out here into the driveway. That's probably a good spot. Look, I am not very good at this whole symmetrical thing. It is not my jam. I feel like that's good enough. I'm also doing this in the evening, so it's got all night to settle down and not be blasted by hot sun. This is the Thai mango, or the Maha Chinook, and it's sort of a semi-dwarf, and in terms of mangoes, dwarf or semi-dwarf is still quite a large tree, but it's a bit smaller than a normal mango. So I'm going to pop this here on the end of the garden bed, and it's not going to block any sun from any of the trees because this is where the sun hits in the afternoon. The sun is up here, so it's not going to block any sun, so it can get a little bit bigger, and it will also provide some privacy. So this is on the end of the row next to my lemonade, which, as you can see, is absolutely loaded. The lemonades are sort of a semi-dwarf as well. They don't grow really big because they produce so much fruit. It sort of slows the tree down in terms of growth. So I'm not too worried about that for space. The only thing that's going to, I guess, come into play is that this is our driveway, so the mango can't overhang too much into the space, so it's going to have a couple of meters width and it can grow as tall as I let it, but I'm probably going to keep it short. I like to keep all my fruit trees where I can pick the fruit because it's easy, it's manageable, and I can jam a lot more into a small space. So this mango I have had sitting in the sun. It's sun hardened. I had it, because it's in such a small pot, I had it sitting in a thing of water, so it got water but also it got full sun. So I know it will survive, and mangoes love the sun, so this is the perfect time to get it planted in summer to get some new growth before we hit winter. I obviously wasn't that generous in digging the hole because it's not very big, but this soil is pretty good anyway, so I'm not too worried. Nashi pear, plum and Thai mango in. We've got lucky last, number 4 to go plant. Okay, so we're on the opposite end of this fruit tree line to plant the lucky last tree. And this little guy here is a sapodilla. So this one here is called Krasui. Not sure if that's how you say it, but anyway, it is a grafted sapodilla, so hopefully it's going to produce fruit a lot quicker. It does have some flowers on it already, so it is sort of at that age, but we won't let it fruit yet. We'll just get it planted. And this fruit tree tastes, or this fruit fly tastes like a brown sugar. So this is going to be a really good substitute for sugar in my smoothies and my cereal or anything like that, dessert. And it's going to go right on the end here next to the lime tree. Really regretting not digging this hole yesterday. But that's okay because it doesn't need to be very big. And with this is a herb that smells really bad, but I'm actually not sure what this is. I think it's like Mexican oregano or something, but this is going to provide a little bit of shade as well as the lime tree so that I can get this established. I also have a lime verbena in here. So, and yes, I know I shouldn't be digging up this close to an established fruit tree because there will be roots in here, especially around these two as well. But we are limited on space and we want more fruit trees, so we don't follow rules necessarily around here. But I won't dig such a big hole. This is, as you can see, good soil. It's not sand, so I don't need to. Bulbs. I planted a whole bunch of daffodils. Oh, that one's in half. And, oh, not daffodils. I've got jonquils planted out here, which I've had for years. So they keep getting moved around. Every time I dig up a hole and plant a new fruit tree, I have to move the bulbs. But that's okay. There's plenty of them and they can go on the ends and produce pretty flowers in winter. I also do have my drip weeper hose out here, so I'm just going to make sure that the new fruit trees get access to that. And I'll go ahead and mulch this as well when I get some mulch. I'm terrible. If I'm watering one plant, I can't water one plant. Everyone needs a drink. While I've been waiting for the weather to cool down to plant things, I have actually been doing some grafting. So I definitely want to show you that as well. And as you can see, the new garden is doing new garden lush things. Honestly, the things that I thought were going to thrive this summer have not, and the things that I thought were going to be slow have done the opposite. So it's just really not what I was expecting. My tomatoes died, my zucchini died, my pumpkins have produced nothing, and yet I have brassicas self-seeding everywhere and thriving. I mean, what is going on here? How can I have brassicas popping up, thriving, and yet my tomatoes look like this?